Cell, the nucleus. The nucleus holds on to the information. It's the big red in the middle. The nucleolus is the thing in the middle inside of the nucleus. It's a big blob, dark patch. Now the nucleolus, if we were to build our city, let's say the nucleus was a castle, then the nucleolus would be like the king's chamber. So the cell would be like the city, and then we have the castle, which is in the middle, that's the nucleus, and then where all the permissions and requirements needed, the guy who's in the main, the boss kind of, that would be equivalent to the nucleolus. And if it was a modern day city, then the nucleus would be like a government building, and the nucleolus is the equivalent of the main office. The nucleus holds information, we know that. What are the information inside the nucleus? It's called chromatin. And it's kind of like squiggly, spaghetti-like. It holds DNA inside of it. So those are chromatin. Inside the chromatin is DNA. So if you were to think that the nucleus is like a computer, then the chromatin are the hard drives, and the DNA is equivalent to the files inside the hard drive. The nucleus is nothing more than, it's just a big membrane that holds the chromatin. That's all. That's all the nucleus is, nothing else. It's just a place that stores information. The word nucleus, it means central part. Now next we're going to talk about ribosome. Remember, ribosomes are equivalent to stores. We have a bunch of free floating, and there are those that are attached. So the ribosomes are equivalent to stores that produce food and clothes and such, but in order to set up stores, you need permission. So you would need to get your permission from either the government or the king, and remember that's equivalent to our nucleolus. So in other words, the nucleolus produce ribosomes. So in order to set up a store, in order to set up stores, you need permission from the king and the government. Therefore, you need the nucleolus. So the nucleolus is responsible for creating ribosomes, and the nucleus just stores information. So if you were to do the math here, the nucleolus produces the ribosome, the kings or the government give permission in order to create the store. In order to lease the store, in order to you want to sell something, you need permission from the top guy, the government. You create your stores, that's the ribosome, and then the ribosome makes stuff like proteins. So the store sells stuff like food, clothes, whatever for the city. So the ribosome provides stuff for the city. But in order to provide stuff for the city, you need permission to provide those stuff. So in other words, the ribosome provides proteins for the cell, but in order to do that, the ribosome needs to be created, and it comes from the nucleolus. The nucleus stores information, and those information are called chromatin. And that's pretty much it about the nucleus for now. At least I... Give me the bad news first. You have AIDS. Oh no, what could possibly be worse than that? You also have Alzheimer's disease. Oh well, that's okay. That's not so bad. At least I don't have AIDS. So doctor, what's the bad news for today?
The nucleus is one of the key things that whenever you see it, you know you're looking at a eukaryotic cell. And it is the brain or control center of the cell because it has the DNA. The DNA holds the genes, which are the instructions of how to build your cell and how to operate your cell. Now, there's three major things that you'll see indicated on a diagram of this nucleus that you need to know about, and that's the nuclear envelope, the chromatin, and the nucleolus. Let's take a look at the cell. Here we see in the center of the cell the nucleus, and in fact the word nucleus actually means center. So on the outside you'll see the nuclear envelope. That's the double membrane of the nucleus. Through it you'll see small openings. Those are called the nuclear pores, and those are the structures that allow messenger RNA, mRNA for short, in and out of the cell in order for it to get to the ribosomes so that the cell can make the proteins as per the directions of the DNA. Now within the nucleus you'll find the DNA. Now DNA is in normal cells is in the form called chromatin, and a word that literally means colored stuff with nitrogen in it. So the chromatin is the DNA, which is wrapped up loosely on proteins, and it's throughout the cell. And they call it a colored stuff with nitrogen in it because when they're first looking through cells, or looking at cells through microscopes, they couldn't see anything. So they started adding dyes, and they added a dye that stuck to nucleic acids like DNA. And so what they saw was, hey, there's colored stuff, and we know it has nitrogen in it, so we'll call it colored stuff with nitrogen in it, chromatin. Now, they saw sometimes that there would be other regions within the nucleus that got even darker. We know now that's because right there in the nucleolus, which means little center of the center thing, we have not just DNA, but we also have another kind of nucleic acid called ribosomal RNA. And so because that ribosomal RNA is being made right here in the nucleolus, it collects more of the stain and looks darker. So, to summarize, we have the nucleus with the nuclear envelope on the outside with nuclear pores to allow substances in and out. We have the DNA, typically in the form called chromatin, loosely spread out throughout the nucleus. And deep inside we have the nucleolus where ribosomal RNA is being made.
As we already stated, the nucleus is the dense core of an atom. The nucleus contains over 99% of the mass of an atom. However, it occupies only about 1/100,000th of the space. If we let this marble represent the nucleus of an atom, it would occupy this much space in the football stadium, with the electrons orbiting at the far ends of the stadium. Within the nucleus are located protons and neutrons. Protons have a positive charge and also have mass. Scientists use a special unit of mass called an atomic mass unit, or AMU for short, to measure the mass of protons. One proton has a mass of 1 AMU. Neutrons have a neutral charge and a mass that is just slightly greater than that of a proton. However, the mass of a neutron is generally considered to be 1 atomic mass unit. You compare. What makes atoms different from each other? The answer lies in the number of protons. Different atoms have different numbers of protons. For example, a helium atom has 2 protons, and aluminum atoms have 13 protons. The number of protons in the nucleus is called the atomic number. Hydrogen, for example, has 1 proton and has an atomic number of 1, whereas oxygen has 8 protons and has an atomic number of 8.